I'm going to drain the swamp.
I'm a drain the swamp.
All right. We're rolling.
What?
Counting us down.
Oh,
3.
look at that bird.
True.
Smell those Douglas firs.
You're listening to Missing Out with Lex Michael and Tauri Jay. Let's start the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to Missing Out. I'm Tauri Jay.
I'm Lex Michael.
If this is your first time listening, what we do here is we introduce each other to different media, whether it be television, movies, music, spoken word, experiences. We talk about the things that have built us as people. We share them with you, the audience, and hope that it builds you. We are the retrospective that is introspective.
Cute.
Yeah. Today, Lex Michael has brought in the 1990 series Twin Peaks, directed and written by David Lynch and his partner.
So David Lynch and Mark Frost were the showrunners, and they were primarily responsible for overseeing everything in the first season. David Lynch directed the pilot. He directed episode 2. Clarification, there's the pilot, and then there's the first season is 1 through 7 following the pilot. So episode 1 is the first episode after the pilot. Episode 2, the episode that ends with the Red Room, is also directed by David Lynch, but a host of writers worked on it, host of other directors. But yes, primarily shepherded, of course, by David Lynch and Mark Frost.
Got it. Okay. And so today we are going to be talking, today I watched the pilot and I watched, I guess, what you would qualify as episode 1 then?
Yeah.
So I watched those two pieces.
Okay.
The pilot being a hour and a half special, and then the regular show being hour-long episodes.
Okay. So you haven't even seen the show start to get weird yet.
Not yet. I mean, there are like little things, but for the most part, from what I've seen, it's a mystery show with whimsical characters.
That is accurate.
Yeah. And so like, yeah, I came in knowing that it gets weird. And so I was just kind of like mostly diving in to see if I could figure out the mystery in only the couple episodes that I've seen. Which I would think so.
But I'd be very curious to hear your theories. I'm actually right now. So I guess some context. Twin Peaks is one of my favorite things that human beings have made.
Oh, really? You've never mentioned that you like it.
I know. I never bring this up.
Oh,
I play this very, very close to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things that has ever been made. I have been a huge fan of this show for, at this point, over a decade.
Okay.
And I came to it like a lot of people, like through some of the DVD releases. And like immediately just completely fell in love with it. And that was my way into the rest of David Lynch's work. But something about this show, and I will say it's one of my favorite things, but it is also one of the most Your Mileage May Vary shows of all time, I think. Like it's either going to, you're either going to get it or you're not, and not in the super pretentious, snobby, like, oh, you just don't get it way.
Yeah.
What I mean is you're either going to get something from it, like you're going to get what it is on an intrinsic sort of emotional gut level.
Yeah.
Or you won't, because it's just not quite your jam. Because it is so unlike anything else, and it is so uniquely itself. Now, I say unlike anything else, knowing full well that a number of shows in the intervening almost 3 decades now have used it as a source of inspiration.
Right.
I mean, like the first season of Riverdale is basically it's Twin Peaks with Archie characters. Little bit less surrealism and supernatural element, but very much. And they were pretty open about it. It's like we kind of wanted to do that. Even Donald Glover was talking about when he was promoting the first season of Atlanta. He's talking about like I really wanted to do Twin Peaks with rappers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that similar tone, like that low key, just creeping feeling of dread and unsettling sensations that I guess he wanted to instill in the audience as well. I just went for a second. Anyway, this is one of my favorite shows. Every element of it, I'm pretty much in love with, from obviously the writing, the direction, the cast, the individual characterizations, the atmosphere, and the music. Like Angelo Badalamente's score, I think, is incredible.
Yeah.
The set and the production design, I'm in love with, and the way you can feel, especially even in the pilot, you can feel moments where, sort of true to his style, David Lynch would just allow accidents to spark like cool improvisational moments that would make the final cut. And that's part of his whole thing, is like you constantly remain open to every idea you can. He has that book he put out called Catching the Big Fish, and it's I guess the philosophy of you have to be as open as possible to allow all of the ideas to come in, and that is how you are open to catching that big idea that you can actually do something with.
Yeah.
Paraphrased heavily, obviously.
Right.
But all of it just does it for me in a way that I have a hard time articulating, in a way that feels totally satisfying. Like, I feel like I still have yet to find a way to articulate it in a way that feels like it does justice to this weird, this weird like thing that I get from it.
Yeah.
And no, not the entirety of the show is excellent. I would say the whole first half of the show is pretty dang great. Midway through season 2, ABC forced David Lynch and Mark Frost to resolve the Laura Palmer mystery, which was never their intention.
Okay.
And once that happened, and then David Lynch and Mark Frost were not anywhere near as involved with the show anymore, thing went off the rails pretty hard for a little while, and it lost most of its audience. Then towards the end of season 2, begins to return to form, and David Lynch came back to do the finale, and that finale is one of the best things that came out of the entirety of that world. It's an excellent piece of television. At that point, they're canceled.
Right.
Then, of course, they did the theatrical feature in 92, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and then, of course, it came back for 18 hours last year.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of stuff that I just threw at you. Hopefully some of that was coherent and there was some sort of through line there. I said a lot. But you hadn't seen any of this.
Yeah.
So coming to it fresh, hearing only what you've heard from me and hearing sort of my enthusiasm about it. I guess first, like broadly speaking, what did this do for you?
It's hard to come into something that has been such a cult classic for so long. I guess with fresh eyes, like especially knowing where like the actors and actresses end up and having so many recognizable faces and things of that sort. Also coming into it with knowing that like so many things reference it later on and other things are different. So like, I feel like I can't come in it with a super fresh eye. But I really dug the character work that they did. Like a lot of the actors are character actors. I super dug a lot of the way it's shot, the storyline. It's intriguing enough to like get you engaged in terms of this murder mystery, but then at a certain point you kind of feel like Agent Cooper, where you're just like, look how quaint all this is. Isn't this really interesting? And something I really found just kind of captivating is it's the first portion of the pilot, how they show how much the death of this one person affects this whole town. Like, I guess I've grown up with a lot of, I guess, blockbuster content where people die and it's just like a thing that happens
all the time. You remember that one movie where Superman was almost directly responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Metropolis citizens?
I do.
I remember that picture. Batman was so mad.
He was. He took an oath of revenge, and it became an okay movie. A debatable movie.
Fascinating movie. I'm actually surprised. I'm intrigued by this. Now I want to discuss this picture with you at length at some point. Anyway,
but yeah, so I really dug how, and I feel like it was a combination of the way it was shot and the way that it was written, in that like a lot of people started figuring out that Laura was dead based on context clues and not necessarily people being like, this person is dead. It's like for example, when you are with the mother and she is calling for Laura and she's realizing that like she's not in the house, and then she calls up Bobby's family and Bobby's like, she's not with Bobby, and then you see her calling up her husband and realizing she's not there, and then you get the husband finding out, and you essentially live through her reaction on the phone.
And also too how they both feel it almost instinctually before Sheriff Truman says anything.
Yeah. I thought that was really fascinating. Like, and I think that it's something you can only do with a more like toned down, quiet, like I almost want to say like foot on the ground way of doing your storytelling. Boots on the ground? Yes.
I believe that's the expression.
Boots on the ground storytelling.
Sure.
So I thought that was really interesting. I'm actually surprised that you mentioned that they never intended on resolving the murder.
The idea was that the Laura Palmer murder would sort of be the inciting incident, but that it would gradually fade into the background in favor of sort of exploring the rest of the town and the citizenry and sort of the dark secrets. Like one of David Lynch's big recurring motifs is this sort of idyllic, sometimes suburban and sometimes, very quaint, small town, simple, but underneath the surface, there's this darkness and this seediness and maybe not necessarily evil, but also maybe evil.
Yeah.
So the idea was that eventually that would become less and less and less the focus, and everybody else's stories would become more and more and more the focus.
Interesting. I know that like when I was reading, I will say that like, it's I'm I will say that like I tried to limit my research to like mostly production stuff because I didn't want to spoil the mystery.
If you have any intention of continuing with this show, and I hope you do, I would do my best to make sure you watch everything obviously in release order the first time through, and also don't let it be spoiled, man.
Well, that was my intention. I was like, I'll look into like the like production, like how it was developed, and then I'll try not to look up anything in terms of story or character, because like people will, especially for a show that is older, will offhandedly be like, and that like this person did this thing,
right?
And
it's like if you can dodge all of that, it's just try, like you run through, shut your eyes, keep your hands over your ears and whatnot, because like you can only see it unspoiled once, potentially, and a lot of people get shit spoiled for them and they don't get to see it even the one time,
right?
You only get to see it unspoiled once, and it's a bummer that they didn't get to do exactly what they wanted, but in a world where they don't get to do exactly what they want, I think what they do is real excellent. But that's later. We're talking about pilot and episode one.
So that was context to say that like I tried to go in as fresh as possible without knowing anything. But like in the research that I did do, I did read that they essentially wanted it to feel like they wanted it to start as like a procedural detective story, not even procedural, but just like as a detective story, and then move into more of a soap opera feel. And so like kind of
almost like a takeoff on Peyton Place, like a kind of winky takeoff at Peyton Place type shows,
right? And you can feel it in the way that some of the scenes are shot, and it's the way that some of the like interactions happen. Like some of the characters, you can feel them being directed to like heighten up their reactions and like really try to like emote as much as possible for the people in the back.
It's uncomfortable, right? Like, and that's by design. Like, think about you were talking about Laura Palmer's parents a few minutes ago, Leland and Sarah, portrayed by Ray Wise, who's one of my favorite actors, I think, in general, and Grace Zabriskie. And the two of them, even in the pilot, you spend longer than we're used to just on their pure expressions of anguished grief.
Yeah.
And we don't really sit with grief in our entertainment too much. Like, people will be devastated by something and then it'll either motivate them or they'll kind of go off in a different direction. But we don't frequently just sit in that moment of pure grief. It's not sexy. It's not glamorous. It's harrowing, and it's uncomfortable because we're so not used to it. But that sort of speaks to what you're saying about how everything is sort of like ratcheted way, way, way up. Like every element of it is heightened.
Yeah. And like I really liked how some of the scenes were just like very simple, very intimate. So there's a scene with, and I'm very bad with names.
I can help you.
So older redheaded lady.
Older redheaded lady, I believe Catherine Martell, played by Piper Laurie.
Okay, yes. And the real estate salesman, they're sleeping together.
Oh, Ben Horn.
Yes.
He's doing that real estate, trying to do that Ghostwood deal with the Norwegians, but he's a lot of things. Like he owns the local department store. He owns the hotel.
Yeah.
He's basically the local. He's Mr. Business, Mr. Getting business done and running businesses and doing business stuff.
Ooh.
And glad handing. Just glad handing with everybody.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what that phrase means.
Glad handing is sort of like, and in the town hall meeting, Cooper like refers to who's the glad handing dandy. Glad handing is basically, it's like what politicians do, where it's just like, nice to meet you. It's like shaking everybody's hand and smiling and like, just try the foe being everybody's buddy thing to court their favor usually for your own ends, whether it's, to try and get their vote or their business or whatever. You're basically being like your own sort of ambassador.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, I get it. It's like what Burr was doing in the song "Election of 1800." He's going around and he's like blah blah blah, talk less, smile more, blah 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 blah. Yeah, I get it.
Everybody knows the B in Aaron Burr stands for Benjamin Horn.
But the scene between those two characters where he's getting ready to leave, it's post coitus, and she's like, we used to spend days together, and it's just like a really cute scene between the two of them, kind of like almost rekindling a spark. And there's a moment when he literally puts his gross mouth on her gross toes, and it's uncomfortable, and I hate it. But that's only a personal thing. But
you're not a toe guy?
I'm not really. Mostly because I don't like germs, and that's where all the germs go.
What if they were freshly washed feet?
Maybe.
Like they're super clean.
I mean, not in my mouth. I'll give you a sweet, sweet foot massage if like we're just out the shower, where you had a long day, and we're being real intimate. And by we, I mean not you and I, because we're not like that. By that I mean like we don't have that kind of relationship. We barely hug. So I'm not gonna.
That hurts.
You know what? Live with it. I'm not gonna touch your feet.
What if the feet were freshly cleaned, so cleaned, like they'd been washing their feet for hours just for you, and if you agree to put the toes in your mouth on national television, you will win $2 million.
This sounds like an episode of Black Mirror. Someone is literally holding me hostage and is like, I know that you need surgery on your kidneys, and I'll give you the exact amount.
Right,
all you got to do is put these toes in your mouth.
But like you're at the Staples Center and it's full of people and they're all like, watching this shit happen. It's on the big, like the Jumbotron and shit.
I mean, all right. I guess the question is, am I sexually attracted to this person, and have I put my mouth on them before? Answer these questions for me, Lex Michael.
Okay, it's a surprise. Maybe.
All right, then I'm going to have to decline. I can make my own money.
$2 million, though. The easiest $2 million. It doesn't even have to be like long. You don't even have to do all of the toes. You could pick which toe, and it can be real brief. It has to be at least 7 seconds, but it doesn't have to be more than 7 seconds. $2 million.
7 seconds?
$2 million.
Of like a surprise. What if they're like, all right, we found this vagabond on a train, and we can't tell how long they've been there. but they live their life barefooted, and we can't tell where the dirt ends and their feet begin. I feel like if it's a surprise, that is what they're gonna make me do for $2 million.
Well, Tari, that sounds pretty classist.
Does it?
Why, if the feet are freshly bathed, what's the difference? What's the difference if they come from a train?
Because they're strange toes. There could be like, I don't know, man. Trains have diseases on them.
They know they need to limit their liability, so they made sure whoever they select, whoever it is,
Yeah.
they're free of disease, any kind of disease.
Okay.
Because they have to limit their liability.
So the rules are
Like
that you
won't die. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, because like they don't want to get sued.
Right. Okay.
Who
So
are these people?
so these weird Black Mirror masochist people are
It's like
sadists.
Parliament.
Yeah.
Parliament is doing it to you.
They are going to get a random person. They're going to clean their toes, and I have to put my mouth on the toes for at least 7 seconds, as many toes or as few toes as I choose, and I get $2 million at the end of it
Yes.
on national television.
Mm-hmm. So you do have to accept that there's a chance that this will go viral.
Okay.
Like, people will talk about it, but it could be one of those things that like how everything is now. Everyone talks about it for like 3 days, and then next week no one remembers.
Yeah.
Chance exists that it like becomes a meme. You have to accept that there is that chance. But with everything going on in the world right now, like, you know, good chance it'll just recede from memory real quick.
I mean, yes. I think under those conditions, I will accept. I will accept the terms of the deal, and I will state that my method of doing so will be to extend my tongue slightly out of my mouth and place it upon one toe.
Nah, it's got to be in. It's got to be in the mouth.
You are adding to the rules.
No, it's got to be in the mouth. That's the whole deal. That was our baseline.
Fine. I will accept. Fine, for $2 million, I'll accept the terms of your deal. Guys, what do you think? Like, what would you do? Would you accept the terms of these deals?
Would you sell out your principles like Tauri Jay for just a little bit of money?
Yeah, because I could move to another country for $2 million, and then like invest the other $1 million. Like, I think I'd be sitting pretty well. I moved to Thailand or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You go to Thailand?
Yeah.
Why Thailand?
Thailand, the baht, which is their currency, is about I think it's 33 to the dollar, something around there. So your money goes pretty far once you're in the country.
Sure.
So I think
And you probably outrun the toe sucker meme.
Yeah, probably
because that shit's going viral.
Yeah. I mean, but it could also open my world to a whole nother group of people. You know, it could really like extend my my partners beyond what I already thought they would be.
Like the Illuminati invites you to join and shit.
They're like, you performed your last rites. Now you can join us.
Like all of the dark money that's shaping governments and shit. They're just like, you know what? Let's just give it to him. And you have it all.
Yeah.
You are the military industrial complex. All because you put a toe in your mouth. And see, you were having second thoughts.
It's true. I should have just gone with my gut. Do you think that the person who took and murdered Laura would suck toes? Do you think
almost certainly?
Yeah. I mean, the guy Bob, etc. Bob,
etc.
The guy, the handshaker, the handshaky Ben.
There is a Bob, but he hasn't been named where you are. But you've seen him.
Okay.
And there's also a Bobby. So
yes.
That's a little bit. There's a lot of B names happening. This episode of Missing Out is brought to you by Two Girls, One Mic, the porn cast. Hey, everyone's a critic. You've heard that, right? Well, it's true even with porn. On Two Girls, One Mic, hosts Yvette and Alice discuss the plot holes and the other holes of your favorite pornography. They're joined by comedians, porn stars, scientists, and authors to review films, discuss the industry, and topics that are porn/sex adjacent. Join them for discussions of classics like Who's Nailin' Palin, Full Holes, Clockwork Orgy, Pump Fiction, and Not The Wizard of Oz. They've had guests including porn stars like Nina Hartley, Mercedes Carrera, Sin Sage. They've had Ella Darling, the queen of VR porn, and Mr. Tom Arnold. Who's Tom Arnold? Everyone loves Tom Arnold. This podcast is available wherever you find podcasts. Just make sure you download the one with a microphone and bra in the avatar. Go check it out. Two Girls, One Mic, the Porncast.
Can we talk about how in Twin Peaks there's literally no such thing as a monogamous relationship?
Everyone's cheating. Everybody in Twin Peaks seems to be in bed with everybody else, both literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, it boggled my mind because like you. Here's how it works. You meet Laura, and they're like, is she with her boyfriend, Bobby? And then you find out she's not with Bobby. Then you meet Bobby, and Bobby's like, yo, I'm doing sex stuff with Cheryl, who's married to crazy... Shelley.
Who's
married to crazy guy, Leo.
Leo, yeah.
And then later, you're like, all right, cool. And Cheryl works with Norma, who's in love with... Ed, who's married to Eye Patch Lady.
Nadine.
And Nadine she's fine.
Is she though?
I mean, she's weirdly obsessed with
she's super duper wants to
drapes and stuff.
Yeah, she wants to make the world's first fully silent drape runner, convinced that this patent will make her and Ed wealthy.
I mean, maybe. It could be the one thing that we've all been missing. Does it happen? You can spoil this for me. Does she make that patent?
I can't, man. That could be the biggest spoiler of the series.
Oh,
you don't know. You don't know.
I have to know.
No, you don't know. You don't know what's relevant and what's not.
Who else is getting down with other people?
I will say the Briggses are, I think, seem to have a pretty happy, stable marriage throughout. Bobby's parents. Who you end up spending a little bit more time with as the series goes on, but Major Garland Briggs and Betty, who also Bobby's mother Betty is played by Charlotte Stewart, who's been working with David Lynch since like Eraserhead.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if not earlier even, but she's in Eraserhead.
Nice.
As is Jack Nance, who plays Pete Martell.
Ooh,
the one who first discovers Laura's body.
Oh yes,
wrapped in plastic.
Fisherman McGee is
Fisherman
what I was
McGee.
called.
Yeah. Pete.
Yes, Pete. 2x4, 4x8s. That's that guy. I had to remember things that people did. There's a lot of names, and I'm very bad with them.
To be fair, right? They do. Even if you're good with names, they introduce a whole bunch of characters in this pilot.
Oh yeah, and like a bunch of subplots, and And it was hard enough keeping track of who's dating who, let alone like everyone's name, who they like. I had to rewind a few times just to be like, who's that person's name? Because I'm don't listen. That's
and
my
I'm
name.
Lex Michael.
But like, and you brought up Bobby. Bobby is like, he starts out as this like Fonzarelli type character who's like, look at me in my jacket, and everyone wants to have sexual relations
like captain
with me.
of the football team guy.
Yeah. And then he becomes like a psychopath who's like, I'm gonna kill this guy who's sleeping with this girl who I'm also cheating on.
Right.
How dare
this other guy, James Hurley, nephew to Big Ed, who rides around on his motorcycle and pouts a lot.
Yeah.
Who was seeing Laura Palmer, was very much in love with her before she died.
Yeah. Which like they're definitely if I were to try to make sense of this mystery from the few episodes that I've seen, they're definitely trying to red herring him and Leo. They're like, oh, these guys' motive and they don't have alibis. Leo's a monster. Ho ho ho, bloody shirt. But I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't think that either of those people did it.
Is it because you just think like they're just tipping it way too hard, too early for it to be that?
Yeah. If anything, I would think that it is, and you can't tell me.
Oh, of course I'm not going to tell you.
But
the
if
most
anything,
ready, no matter who you say, I'm gonna nod and I'm gonna go, huh, interesting, in this really exaggerated way.
Good.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if it is anybody, it would be the doctor character. What is his name? Lawrence Jacoby, Dr. Jacoby.
Huh. Interesting.
Because he's weird.
I like Jacoby. Jacoby's, I think, an interesting kind of fun character. Played by Russ Tamblyn.
Yeah.
Dad to Amber Tamblyn.
Yes.
Who is a person that's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Amber Tamblyn, if you're listening, hello. Big fan of you and your dad.
Hi, yeah. I loved you in House. And that, 3-second view of your face in Django Unchained.
Oh, that's right. And you were on an episode of Buffy, in season 6.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think you were also Joan of Arc in something, or Joan of Arcadia, one of those two things.
That was a show.
Yeah. So yeah.
But also Russ Tamblyn and Richard Bamer, who plays Ben Horn, were both in West Side Story.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Ah, man, look at all these connections, bro.
Anyway, yes. So Dr. Jacoby is sort of the weird, kooky psychiatrist who is Laura was seeing prior to her death, and he hangs out he wears these very sort of loud suit jackets and this the red and blue lens glasses, almost like the old school 3D glasses, but in actual frames.
Yeah.
Interesting. He's an interesting character.
He is. There's this moment that I specifically noted because when he first meets Cooper and he is talking to the sheriff, he's like, so yeah, Laura died, and then he's wearing this tie that has a hula girl on it.
Yes.
And as he starts talking about Laura, he reaches his hand underneath the skirt of the hula girl on his tie.
Yep.
And is like, don't tell her parents. Oh. And I'm like, oh, this guy's so gross. He's so gross, and he's in love with this girl, and she's only 17 or 16 or something.
I believe 17.
17, yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, this guy, if anyone murdered this girl, it would be him. Because
why? Tell me, explain your theory to me.
My theory is because he is one. You can tell that he was super obsessed, and it's one of those things where when he meets Cooper and Sheriff Truman.
Yes. So Sheriff Harry S. Truman, played by Michael Ontkean, who I want to say was a hockey player before he became an actor, and I also want to say he's Michael Keaton's cousin.
Okay.
I could look that up.
Nah,
Will
don't.
I?
Don't do it.
And also, of course, we keep leaping over FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper, played famously by Kyle MacLachlan, who comes to Twin Peaks because the murder of Laura Palmer bears a resemblance to a murder that he investigated a year before, the murder of Teresa Banks.
Yes. So when they're all interacting, there's the shady piece that Laura has never Laura's parents don't know that she is seeing him. And also how anxious he was to see the body. And it's one of those things where you're like, the people who commit crimes like to see their handiwork.
Sure.
And then you get this moment at the very end of, I believe it is the second or episode 1 post the pilot.
Yes.
Where he has the heart necklace and he's listening to their recordings of their sessions, and he gets really sad and bummed out. Because she loved someone else and she was never going to love him, and but now he has the other side of her heart. Yeah, he'll have her heart forever and she'll never love anyone else because that's how people do.
All right.
So that is a theory.
Interesting.
I'm sure that but I am reading into clues that were never meant to be, were never meant to blossom, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I believe they knew who it was. Like they knew what the answer to that question was, but they just never intended to reveal it to the audience.
Interesting.
So I believe, like, right from the pilot, they knew who the killer was going to be, but they just never intended to resolve it outwardly.
So was their intention to have the audience, like, on their own time kind of put clues together and be like, oh, we all know that it's Truman, but, like, they're never going to say it because they're too clever for that?
Possibly. It's also possible that over time it was just meant to become less and less important, less and less significant to the actual goings-on of the show.
Right, because it's just meant to bring Cooper into the town, and the rest of the show, I assume, is just like hanging out with the townsfolk, but also like it's just if Cooper never solves this mystery, he has no reason to leave the city, and so it's like one of those things that has to remain unresolved, otherwise he will leave.
Right.
So like I get why they wouldn't resolve it,
and they have to jump through some hoops. Like once they resolve that storyline, they have to jump through some hoops to keep Cooper in town.
Right.
For exactly that reason. It's like once that murder is solved, then presumably he would leave. He would go back to the FBI.
Yeah. I mean, unless and maybe they do this, but I like the idea of him getting to this town, and even after he solves it, being like, you know what? I like it here. It's cool. It's not all the hustle and bustle of FBI work. I'm going to chill out. And then that being the reason he stays, which is a way of doing it.
Sure.
I doubt that, like, as far as I know, like, shit gets weird. So, like,
The end of the next episode from where you are I don't want to describe it to you. I want you to just experience it. But it's maybe the most iconic sequence to come out of all of Twin Peaks.
Okay.
And it's where stuff starts to get a little kooky.
Yeah. So if that's the case, like, I would imagine also it being that, like, he's like, I just need to know more about, like, what's happening. So, like, that could also be a reason why he stays. But I don't know.
And I don't want to get too far.
No, I mean,
this
we're in Tauri's theory corner,
right?
Where I'm just spitballing all these. I'm sure that everyone at home is like, "This guy's a fucking idiot. He doesn't know anything."
Oh no,
Which,
if
hey,
I would imagine if you're, hey, I would imagine if you're listening and you're a big fan of Twin Peaks. I mean, I'll only speak for myself. I have a really good time turning people onto this show, and listening to them kind of like work their way through it and try and figure out where it's all going ahead of time. Like different people's theories, episode to episode, especially early on, I find really interesting.
Okay. Because that's what this is. That's all of it. You had mentioned that David Lynch likes to make, like, accidents into, like, things. Is there an example of that from the pilot that you can, like, share without spoiling too much?
A couple. So the smaller one is there's a scene where Cooper he's with Truman and they're first looking at the body. Yeah. And there's an attendant in the room with them who's supposed to leave the scene. And Cooper basically asks him, it's like, can you leave us, please? And the actor didn't hear what MacLeod said to him. Yeah. And he thought he was being asked his name, and he says his name. He says, like, his name is Jim. And then Cooper just sort of looks at him blankly for half a second and goes, could you leave us alone, please? And he's like, yeah. And he leaves. Yeah. That was unscripted. It was just a moment that happened totally organically that Lynch kept it in. Yeah. The flickering light, they didn't plan for that light to be flickering. Okay. And he just sort of liked the ambiance that it created. He's like, great, let's leave it. But maybe the most famous example of him embracing an accident and really running with it is the casting of Frank Silva as Bob. Now, Bob has not been named yet. I think Bob, this is as spoilery as I'll get. Okay. Bob, I think, is named in the next episode. Bob is the long gray-haired man in denim that you see a shot of behind the bars on the bed. That's Bob. Bob was a set decorator. Frank Silva was a set decorator working on the show. Yeah. And at a certain point, I think he was moving a dresser, and there was a shot getting ready to go up, and he like blocked himself off, so he might have been visible in the shot. He's like, you're going to get stuck in the room.
Yeah.
And I guess Lynch liked the idea of him kind of being stuck, so he just wanted to get the image of him behind the bed bars.
Yeah.
He didn't know what he was going to do with it. He'd figured that out at some point. He just really liked that image. But additionally, there's a shot at the end of the pilot where Sarah Palmer has the vision of who's revealed to be Jacoby taking the other half of the necklace from under the rock.
Yeah.
She shoots bolt upright on the couch, and there's a mirror above her head.
Yeah.
And you can see Frank Silva in the mirror because he got himself stuck in this position purely by accident. And it's in the pilot, that shot of him in the mirror, just sort of as this presence.
Right.
This character he becomes one of the primary fixtures of the show purely by accident, purely because Frank Silva, dressed like Frank Silva, like I guess that's what he was wearing that day.
Yeah.
Accidentally ended up in a shot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was I know that supernatural aspects get added to the show, and so that to me was like the first incident of it, where like with this mom, one, having that vision, and you're like wondering how that happens, and then later seeing and reacting to the existence of this gray-haired man. So that is the first bit of intrigue that you really start getting.
And I'm not going to tell you anything about Bob, because once again, I'm really hoping that you continue down this path, and I want you to discover it as the show hands that information out.
Right.
But yeah, I would say, especially from the first couple episodes, that's by far the biggest example of a happy accident that he embraced and they all really ran with.
Yeah. Can we talk about Mike, the
Bobby's friend?
Yeah.
Who's real rude to Donna?
Oh yeah. He's aggressive.
Yes.
Be aggressive.
Yes. Mike, played by Gary Hirschberger, and Donna, of course, Lara Flynn Boyle.
Yeah.
You know her. She was the villain in Men in Black 3. 2. Two. It was 2. The one with Johnny Knoxville and having 2 heads. It's that one. I think that's 2.
Yeah, that's 2.
It's the number of heads Johnny Knoxville has. That's how I
Yes,
remember.
exactly. 3 is the one with Luke Cage in it.
He's in that?
Yeah, he plays... Mike Coulter plays Will Smith's dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was before I knew who Mike Coulter was.
Same.
I've also only seen that movie one time. It was a while ago.
You should go back. Holds up. Josh Brolin as young K.
I remember he does
good.
it like a mean Tommy Lee Jones.
He does it real good. It's real good.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about Lara Flynn Boyle.
Lara Flynn Boyle, that's right. Also, of course, she's in Wayne's World.
And I've never seen it.
You've never seen Wayne's World?
No.
Oh, we're going to talk about Wayne's World one day.
We should.
It's great. I like it.
We were talking about her mean boyfriend.
Yeah, Mike is a dick.
Yeah. Like, you imagine that the only reason why she... Yeah, because she's secretly in love with James a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, monogamy doesn't exist in Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is because you have to have a minimum of 2 lovers.
Yeah, only if you're Major Briggs.
Yeah.
and Betty Briggs does monogamy exist. I'm sure there are other examples that I'm not remembering right off the top of my head, but yeah, for the most part, everybody's just sort of the wandering eyes, wandering other stuff.
I mean, which, happens in those small towns.
Yeah, everything does kind of get weirdly incestuous when it's all insular.
Yeah. Which I had read that originally the population of Twin Peaks was supposed to be just over 5,000. But NBC was like, yo, we got to have more people. So like 50,000.
I think it's like the number on the sign is like 51,000 something.
Yeah. But I guess it was like retconned in some like notes booklet where they're like, it's a typo on the sign. It's actually 5,000.
There is there's a bunch of ancillary material that has come out over the years. Like some of it came out around when the show was airing, and some of it more recently. Different tie-in books. Like there was they released The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer, which Jennifer Lynch, David Lynch's daughter, was primarily responsible for writing. They did autobiography of Special Agent Dale Cooper, which is super out of print and hard to find. But Mark Frost's brother, Scott Frost, wrote that. There's like a guide, like a traveler's guide to Twin Peaks type thing, which might be the book that you were talking about. Far more recently, to tie in with the revival last year, Mark Frost put out 2 books. One is The Secret History of Twin Peaks, and the other is The Final Dossier. I bring this up because I think all of them, if not all of them, have handfuls of inconsistencies from the show.
Yeah.
So that could be one. Like, I don't necessarily think of it as a retcon. I think of it more as an inconsistency.
Okay.
And some of it, like in The Secret History of Twin Peaks, I think a lot of the inconsistencies, obviously Mark Frost co-created the show. I think he probably realizes that some of these things are inconsistent. And I think there is a point that he's making with those inconsistencies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think of them as inconsistencies more than retcons.
Well, I mean, I think that it was more of a jab at the network in that they were like, they forced them to make it a bigger town than it actually was intended to be. So they're like, no, the sign is wrong.
Right.
It's not me that's out of touch. It's the children. But yeah, so Donna, I feel like she's only in this relationship with Mike because if she ever tried to break up with him, he would murder her.
Yeah.
Yeah. He keeps being like, Donna, you don't not do what I tell you to do. And like when he finds her at the bar at the Roadhouse, he gets like he grabs her and like is almost pulling her off her feet and shaking her just because she wasn't at her house, bro. Like she's dealing with the death of her best friend, and he's like, you better be at the police station for Bobby. And she's like, bro, like my friend died too, and he doesn't care.
Right.
He's gonna murder her if she ever tries to break up with him.
He doesn't come off very well in these episodes. No, he needs to sit down.
Oh yeah.
He definitely needs to sit down. He needs to think about his choices.
Does he get better? Or does he get murdered real good?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, but you can. Just for my own vindication.
I will only spoil the character of Mike for you.
Yeah.
No other element of the show. Only Mike.
Yeah, I don't need context. I just need to know if Mike gets his comeuppance.
I actually can't answer. And it's not because he does, and it's not because he doesn't. It's because, like, to address what happens to any one character, I would have to give you information about other characters.
Okay.
Because everything is all just sort of tied up together
Right.
in weird, eventually weird, kind of unexpected ways.
Yeah. Okay. In my mind, until I catch up, my headcanon is that Mike drinks and drives, which
I don't think that's headcanon. I think that's just canon.
I mean, but the headcanon part is that in his drinking and driving, he is like, I'm on top of the world, and then smashes into a tree, and then a dog comes by, and he's like, help, pup, and the dog bites his face off, and then pees on him, because he's a bad person.
Wow.
I don't like Mike.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
He's not a nice. He's not a gentleman. He's not very gentlemanly in these episodes.
He's an abusive boyfriend, and I do not support.
No.
Speaking of abusive boyfriends, I mentioned Leo, the trucker husband of Shelley.
He's played by Eric Daray, who I believe is the son of casting director Joanna Ray.
Oh, really?
Yes.
He is a monster.
And
yes,
Leo's horrifying.
You get the sense that he is abusive in the first episode when Bobby and Shelley are driving to the house and they see the truck and Bobby speeds off so he's not noticed, and you're like, okay, there's something up with this guy. And then with the way that how tentative Shelley is when she's interacting with him.
Oh, she's afraid of him.
Yeah. And then you get to episode 1 where she puts the bloody shirt in a drawer, and he's like, where's my shirt? Where's my favorite blue shirt? And he puts soap in a sock and he's like,
Starts swinging it around.
yeah, dude, it gets fucked up.
And it's very much you're making me do this, Shelley.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Leo's not a safe person to be around.
No. I hope he also gets his comeuppance. Like, I hope that when Mike is doing his bit of drunk driving, between the car and the tree is Leo. And
just gets pinned there.
Yeah, he gets pinned there. And, like, he stays alive for a while, and then a horde of, like, hoodlums show up, and they're like, yo, that was my favorite tree. Get off my tree. And they all get, like, things that, like, fill up socks with soap and just start swinging and just start beating him to death. And they're like, you got blood all over my favorite tree. And then he's like, oh, I've been doing everything wrong this whole time, like right before he dies. That is my headcanon until I catch up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So everyone who is bad is involved in this one car accident.
Everyone who's bad.
Yeah. So my headcanon also is whoever's the killer
It's also is the tree.
Is
the tree killed Laura
the
Palmer.
tree. It's like a Evil Dead situation where like the tree came alive and it like took Palmer and then like went back to his tree spot and was like, man, what another good day's work. I'm going to use the part of the dead corpse of one of my friends, i.e. paper, and stick it under her fingernail. And that's it. I'm did such a good job, me, this evil tree. What's that? And then the car pins a human person to it. And then, you know, you guys know the rest. Mike gets his face eaten off. So if none of this happens, I'm going to be very disappointed.
All right.
Yeah.
That's really specific. That's a really specific thing to hinge all of your hopes on.
Yep. I mean, that's how it works. That's why Last Jedi was really bad, is because I put all these expectations, and Rey didn't end up being the love child of Anakin and Ben Kenobi. That's how it happens, right? You put a lot of hope in this one specific fan theory, and then the thing is bad, not your theory.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Uh-huh. Now I'm just trying to think about the mechanics of Anakin impregnating Ben Kenobi.
Midichlorians.
That's how the Force works, bro. Yeah.
Totally.
It's a Force pregnancy.
Right. That's
Yeah.
how it happens.
Yeah.
And then Rey just like emanated out of his belly.
Like his midichlorian count is so high he can impregnate dudes. Like that's really all it means.
Yeah.
That's the only thing separating him from the other Jedi is he can impregnate dudes now.
Mm-hmm. That's why he's the chosen one.
And that's why he's so mad when he like catches fire, is like he can't impregnate anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Especially dudes.
Yeah. Because his midichlorian semen got like all burned up.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crispy. It's like burnt cheese.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with human anatomy, you should know that essentially having your testicles too warm causes your sperm count to lower. So your body has a way of regulating. That's why sometimes when it's cold, they go into your body, and sometimes when it's hot, they sag a little bit lower. You just learned about human anatomy. Did you not want to learn about that human anatomy?
It's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about that now.
That's important.
I just got shoved off this precipice into testicles.
Testicles. Presticles. What? I'm combining precipice and testicles. Presticles.
How are you feeling? Are you okay?
I'm dying. I'm being burned from the scrotum up. I can't impregnate men anymore.
Okay, so where were we? Oh, right. So you want all of the bad things to happen to all of the bad people, especially that tree.
Yes, that tree, Mike and Leo.
Got it.
All of them. But that's. I mean, look, it's fine. If none of that happens, I will just say that the show is bad on public record and that it is literally the worst show ever. Like, no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah. Very reasonable response. I will say that it literally ruined my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll get so many hits. You will get so many hits.
I mean, that's what I live for. I live for those yummy, yummy clicks.
Nothing gives me a greater rush in this life than gaming the algorithm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But really, I really liked this show. I think that like I'm starting to kind of get towards the wrapping up portion of this show.
I was like, which show?
This
and
show.
Now I got it, because you were talking about one show and then you were talking about another.
Yeah. This show being Missing Out. I'm giving my final thoughts, and then I'm gonna fly off into the wilderness.
I'm trying to think of like who else we didn't cover or didn't mention.
I mean, I think that like so.
Well, obviously the log lady hasn't come up yet.
The log lady, I was wondering if, are you familiar with Ren and Stimpy? Like,
I mean, yeah, not from a handful of years, but back in the day, I saw.
I was wondering
a
if
bunch of it.
the bit, there's like a bit about log, you know, the log song from Ren and Stimpy. I'm wondering
I do not remember the log song.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's great. It's
Okay.
funny. It's like one of the main things that people remember about Ren and Stimpy is like, it's basically a commercial for a log. It's like, it's log, it's big, it's sunny, it's wood. And I was wondering if that bit was inspired by Twin Peaks.
It is very possible.
Yeah.
Maybe Twin Peaks is what brought logs mainstream.
Yeah.
It was like Pet Rocks for a while. Everybody wanted a log.
Yeah. I mean, well, log is better than bad. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
the song. That's
Yep,
what it
it's
is.
that
All right.
song.
Yeah, I definitely
Yep.
didn't remember that.
No. But yeah, it's that was what made me think of, or that's what the log lady made me think of. I assume that she is like a reoccurring character where she's like, I love this log, and the log will tell you all the secrets.
Yeah, her log definitely has something to tell you.
I wonder if the character from Ed, Ed, and Eddie who carries around a plank is also
Plank, that's right.
inspired by this character.
That would make me happy. I'm not sure. It's possible, right? It's a piece of wood that he communicates with, allegedly, like that only he can understand.
Now my brain is like, what are all the references? But does this log ever give a monologue? You know, because she obviously can't give a dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Do you think that this show is too grounded that they never would? Oh, okay. All right.
Anyway, already we see things like, coffee and cherry pie becoming iconic staples of the series, getting mentioned a couple of times in as many episodes. Also, the show opens. First character you see on Twin Peaks is Joan Chen as Josie Packard. I don't know if you have any idea what to make of her yet.
All I know is that like they give her her general backstory, which is like, oh man, she was married to the previous owner of the log factory, and then he died and left her everything, and his sister's mad, and so like I know that there's a rivalry between the sister and Joe, and I know that the sheriff is doing hot sex with Joe. He's getting him a hot cup of Joe. Oh yeah. They call her Joe in the show, right?
Do they?
I thought so.
Her name is Josie.
Yeah. Maybe just the sheriff calls her Joe. Like he's like, oh, hey, Joe. That's the sound of kissing.
Is it?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Like that.
It sounds like how dogs kiss.
Yeah.
Which
What's the difference?
isn't kissing so much as licking.
Yeah. What's the difference? Is that not how humans do it? Am I missing out on something? Am I missing out on kissing?
It's possible, man. Like from the sound of it, I wonder.
Guys, should we do a show about kissing where I go around and kiss people and figure out what it's like? No.
That would actually that'd be like it could be This American Lifestyle, and we just sort of record as we go, and we get everybody's horrified reactions.
I spent some time with Tauri Miller, who's never kissed. You've never kissed anyone, right, Tauri? No. I mean, it's like that movie, like Never Been... As he's going on, I'm thinking to myself, how does this guy not been kissed? Is it his unruly demeanor? Is it how unattractive people find him? Maybe it's his incessant talking. Yeah, and like in that movie, like blah, 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 blah. Am I right? Drew Barrymore. Yeah, I think it's his incessant talking that really drives him to be unkissed. And I'm really interested to see how we go about getting this disgusting creature lip to lip with other people. Right? I'd listen to that show.
I would until I got uncomfortable, which would not take that much time.
Was it the usage of lip to lip with other people? Was that the turning point?
You know what? You lost me before that, man. I was gone by that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess since we are sort of moving into the end of this very, very scattered but enjoyable conversation about Twin Peaks, is this something you think you are going to continue on with?
Yes, I think that like I am definitely going to keep watching, especially since like it's not an overwhelming amount to take in. In addition, like. I find all the like character work to be really interesting, and I know that like this has become such like iconic show that like I think that it will be really interesting to catch up and almost like get realigned with the zeitgeist in terms of like knowing what references exist to this show. Also, I really like Kyle MacLachlan.
I am a big fan of the work especially the work he has done with Lynch. He's sort of, especially as Cooper, he's almost like Lynch's avatar. Like Lynch has said, like in crafting that character, he's like, he says a lot of things that I say.
Yeah.
David Lynch too, really into trees. But also, and not to, the work that Kyle MacLachlan does when they came back 25 years later for the Revival series.
Yeah.
You'll have to let me know how you feel about it when you get there, but I feel like his work in the Revival is like one of the greatest magic tricks that I've ever seen.
Interesting.
Is good.
Okay.
But I would love if you're going to keep going with this series, like every so often, even on this show, to just sort of check in with you about it, like see where you're at, see like kind of what you think about where you are, see what your theory is up until the moment of that reveal.
Yeah.
So I'll probably like poke you, like maybe like every so often on a Missing Out Monday or something. I'll be like, hey, how many more episodes have you watched? Where are you at? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd be down to do like a weekly like Twin Peaks update. The Twin Peaks report where I like each week I watch an episode and then like report back on it.
If you wanted to do one a week, like I'm totally down to do that. And that could just be a little bit like a tiny little segment at the end of something somewhere.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah, especially because I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the next one, because the next one is where we really start to blow the mythology open a little bit.
Yeah.
And where all of the more surreal supernatural elements really, it's like we dive into it like real aggressively.
Okay. Let's say that let's start that in like December.
Yeah. Let's start that in December.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you guys like Twin Peaks, you're in luck, because we do too. But if you don't, maybe you should.
Yeah, I would recommend checking it out. I think that like one, I will say that don't let the 4:3 aspect ratio turn you away.
It's window boxed, but that's the way it was shot. It was
right.
It was shot, of course, for TV in
the 90s,
not just in the 90s, in 1990.
Right.
So that's it. That's the original aspect ratio. Try not to watch it all stretched out if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
But also, even given that format that it's shot in, the 4:3, it is still one of the more cinematic shows that you're gonna find up until HBO really started cranking out their original programming.
Yeah. And it really like lets the shots breathe. Like as Lex was mentioning earlier, that like there are a lot of like happy accidents that happen throughout the show. So I would recommend like actually diving in and watching, no phone in front of your face, because like you'll miss a lot of little things.
Yeah, this is not a show you can multitask through. This is very much a show that you want to be as engaged with as possible, because even things right down to the sound design frequently have significance, as if the sound design does not always have significance, but like details that you maybe want to pick up or that will definitely add layers to the experience. I would say, not a multitasker. This is like you sit, you focus for the hour, however long it is, and you try and internalize it the best you can. Also, if it doesn't feel like your jam in the first 5-6 minutes, try and stick with it a little bit longer, because it's entirely possible, because it is so just what it is, and it is so not like just about anything else.
Yeah,
it may take you a couple of minutes to sort of adjust to what their intentions are and kind of the way they're going to be telling stories.
Gotcha.
The sort of the tempo of it, the specific musicality of it, the mood, and sort of what because you could look at some of the performance choices and you can go, well, people don't behave that way, but like these people in this heightened reality do, and you just have to sort of calibrate your brain for the intention of the creators.
Yeah, if it helps you to think of this as another reality, just look in the pilot episode at the Captain Crunch box that says Crunchies, and be like, that's not our world,
right?
So yeah. Lex, if they want to talk to you about Twin Peaks, where can they find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at the Lex Michael.
Awesome. I am on Twitter and Instagram as well at Tauri Jay. That's TaurijAY. But if you want to talk to us as a collective, you can hit us up at Missing Outcast. That's MissingOutcast on Twitter. You can also hit up the Missing Out Hotline if you love using that sweet vocal cord collection of yours. That number is 978-MISS-OUT. That number again is 978-MISS-OUT. You can leave us a voicemail, let us know your name, what you're into, or your thoughts on anything that we've talked about on this show, past, present, or those are the things, unless you know what we're talking about in the future. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. We hope you had a great holiday. We hope you ate a lot. We hope that you either enjoyed your family or enjoyed avoiding them.
Me, yeah.
We missed you. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Did you know a turkey puppet once ran for the presidency of Ireland? Did you know that meat once rained from the skies of Kentucky? Did you know that there was an emperor of the United States for a while? Then listen to the Wiki Ship Down podcast.
We live in an age when the sum total of humanity's knowledge can be found in your pocket on a smartphone at any given time. But when that knowledge is peer editable, like it is on Wikipedia, what does that say about mankind? So follow us down the digital rabbit hole as we drink, joke, and curse our way through the random button on Wikipedia and see where our journey through humanity's knowledge takes us.
While you're at it, follow us on all social media at Wiki Ship Down. I'm Ruth Ann.
I'm Ryan, and be sure to find us every Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to podcasts.